Well, welcome back again to Casamotive, and in this video I wanted to give you the 4 indicators to see whether you have the big goals, to see whether you are going to achieve the great success and reach the heights of what you're capable of doing. You know, one of the hardest things, one of the most difficult things I have is coaching people and mentoring people on a subject which they think they already know. And the reason why it's so difficult to coach people on this subject is that when people think that they already know something, they tend to preempt you. They tend to do that thing of, oh, I already know, oh, not this again, or I already know what we're going to be talking about, or I already know this subject, you don't need to tell me. And what that does is, of course, it stops them from being in the moment, from actually hearing what you're saying, because what they're doing is that they're running ahead they're jumping the gun. They're running ahead and guessing what you're already going to try to talk about. So this goal setting, perhaps one of the most foundational things for achieving anything in life, whether it be to improve your relationship, to have more money, to get up higher through the ranks in your workplace, to get more healthy. Goal setting is a fundamental key, and yet the issue is so many of us have heard about it since we were children, and people have told us about it, that it's become that the law of familiarity has kicked in. And the law of familiarity simply says, if you hear something for so long, it basically becomes irrelevant. You lose that excitement. You lose that, oh wow, I've never heard that before kind of thing. And so what I wanted to do today is explain something to you. You see, somebody once very famously said that we don't get in life what we want, we get in life who we are. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, that means me and you in life, loads of people say, I think I should have this, I think I should have that, I think I should be more healthy, I should stop smoking, I should work out more, I should eat better food, I should travel a lot more, I should spend more time with my family, I should spend more time with my missus. Loads of people have shoulds. But most people don't get their shoulds. Most people get their musts. They get who they are. They get what they have to have. Look, there are some people where if they have to pay their bills every single month, they will pay their bills. There are some people who, if their absolute standard and who they are is that they have to turn up on time every single day, these people will find a way to turn up on time. If your standard is that I've got to be positive all the time, I'm telling you, you will find a way to be positive. If every single month you've got to earn a certain amount of money, and in fact, coincidentally, the money that you're earning at the moment in your job is not based on how much money you can earn, it's based on the minimum that you have to have. It is your standard. I mean, I'm telling you, if your boss came to you and they said to you, we're going to pay you a wage which was less than what your standard is, you'd quit. You wouldn't even care whether you have a job or not. You would quit because it's not up to your standard. It's not up to your expectation. I should say, guys, that I think sometimes people get a bit confused with the word standard. So I tend to use the word expectancy. Another word for standard is expectation. What you expect is your standard. What you have to have is your standard. And so what I began to realize was that if you get in life what your standard is, what you have to have, then how do we change what we have to have? See, there is only 2 ways human beings change, okay? The first way is because of disaster. It's because you have to burn the bridges. It's because people will not change their life unless it's something bad has happened. They've lost their job, they've been in a car accident, and maybe you've seen that before where people, they've lost a loved one or something bad has happened, and that's why they've changed their lives. The second reason people change their lives is because the future holds something big. They're inspired. They're moved by something in the future. Something ahead of them is so big, so large, so ambitious, so audacious, so ridiculous that it actually pulls them through all the fears of not achieving it. And the way to do that, now I don't want people to wait for disaster to happen. I don't want people to go to the doctor and the doctor then tells them that they're obese and then they change. I'm saying to you, have a goal so ridiculous, so big, so audacious, so mad that you go and achieve that goal, and that you don't do you don't change because of the opposite. And the way to do that is to have big, ridiculous goals. Big goals. And so I wanted to give you guys as to some pointers as to how do you know then that my goal is big? How do I know that my goal is audacious? How do I know that it is something that is ridiculous? Let me give you some pointers. Number one that I would suggest to you is that you should feel uncomfortable. If you're setting goals, whether it be in your health, in your money, in your relationship, your goal should be something that makes you feel uncomfortable. The reason why it makes you feel uncomfortable is because you don't think you're ever going to be able to achieve it. Because it's coming out of your comfort zone. Because basically, the key here is you're going to have to become a different person to the person that you are now. And that's what the uncomfortable feeling is. Because what the uncomfortable feeling is that it basically, when you see this, and you set these audacious goals, you're trying to change your self-image. All of us have a self-image. We have an image. All of us, when we go to the mirror, there is an image, a reflection of our physical being, right? We can see our physical being in the mirror. But in our head, all of us have an image of how we see ourselves, a picture. Does that make sense? A bit like, you know, when you go to the cinema and there is the projector and the projector is projecting. There is a projector itself, but inside the projector, there is an image that is projecting out. That is how you see yourself. There is an image inside of your head of how you see yourself, which is different to your physical being. And so what's really interesting is that when you try to change, when you set big goals, when you try to see yourself differently, what you're trying to do is change your self-image. One of the most powerful human things the human things that we have is our need to stay congruent with how we define ourselves, how we see ourselves. Because if you don't see yourself a certain way, how will you know how to behave? How will you know what manners to have? How will you know whether to work out or not? You've got to have that image. And so what's important for you to understand is you've got to feel uncomfortable. If you don't feel uncomfortable, then it means your goal's not big enough. I don't know what your goal is. You've got to make it bigger. So let's give an example here. If at the moment in your job you're earning £50,000 and your goal is, oh, I'd like to earn more money. If your goal currently is £60,000 and you're like, yeah, that's pretty achievable, it's not big enough. You need to double that, triple that, because that then leads us into the next bit, which is you should not know how you're going to achieve it. You should not, clue number 2, as to know whether you have a big audacious goal is, you should not know how you are going to achieve your goal. If you think, oh, Cass, man, I can do that, it's not big enough. You need to make it bigger. People do not grow when things are a little bit. Let me give you an example of this. The example I want to share with you is if you run a race with people who are similar to you, right? Who are the same kind of size as you, who think similar to you, who are around the same kind of fitness level, then you probably are most likely, many times if you run that race, are going to win. But if you run a race with people who are faster than you, who are better than you, who think differently to you, you're not going to win, but your time would be faster, your time would be better, because you're going to push that little bit more. You just naturally will. You won't even, a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to get discouraged. No, you're not. Naturally, human beings, we are goal orientated. We want to grow. We want to improve. And so naturally, you will just run faster. So that perfectly illustrates that you need to have a goal that you do not know how to achieve. If your goal is to for example, move up in your management level in your workplace, don't be thinking, oh, I want to be a supervisor. Your goal should be to become regional. Do you see what I mean? You should not know how you're going to do it. That's the key. The next thing is if you do not have protest from other people, then it's not big enough. You should have people say to you, Cash, you're a dickhead. How are you going to think, oh, you think you're so cool, or you think you're so amazing, or you think that there is something special about you? If you do not have people who are coming up against you, who are your resistance, then your goal is not big enough. Because people only come up with resistance because you're making them feel uncomfortable. Does that make sense? If I knew you could achieve something, I'd have no problem with it. But you see, most people get affected, especially if it's your friends. Most of us, birds of a feather, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about it. Birds of a feather flock together. People who think alike, people who are like the same types of things tend to hang around with the same types of people. And the moment that you set big goals, the moment that you want to elevate your life and you want to progress and you want to grow, is a moment that you step out of the herd. What's called a flock. A group of birds is called a flock, right? That's why it says birds of a feather. Certain types of birds or a flock will flock together, okay? And so when you begin to set big goals, you begin to make other people feel uncomfortable because you're now challenging them to think differently. You're saying, well, I think I could achieve it. But you see, other people only see you based on who they are. So if I don't think that a goal is achievable, you may think it's achievable, but if I don't think it's achievable, I don't see it from your point of view. I only see that it's possible from my point of view. We only see people as we are. Does that make sense? So if I'm loving, I will see other people as loving. If I'm somebody who's ambitious, I will see other people as ambitious. So what I'm trying to suggest to you is you need to make the goal so big that other people challenge you. That other people are like, no, Cass, you're mad. It's never going to happen. You're never going to... I say this to people all the time. There is no way for you to rise, to grow, to get better without challenge. You cannot do it. Every single person who I've studied, who I've interviewed, who I've spent time around, who's got a great relationship, who's earned lots of money, who's got loads and loads of great friendships, has had to overcome challenge. There is no way of getting around this. I believe that there's a story of the crabs in a bucket. See, what's really interesting is that people, as you try to rise through the ranks, you are always going to get pulled down. And there was a man once who was walking on the beach, and he saw this man out who had a bucket. And in the bucket, the man had a couple of a couple of crabs in the bucket. And the man was like, "Why are you putting the crabs in there, mate? What's wrong with you? Like, why don't you just put one in there?" And the man said to him, I can't put one crab in the bucket, because if I leave one crab in the bucket, it's just going to escape. It's just going to get out. And the man goes on to say that crabs, if you put two crabs in a bucket, they will try and pull each other down. And if the other crab insists and tries to crawl out, then the crab will cut off its legs. And if it insists and still continues to try and escape and get out of that bucket, then the other crab will kill it. And that's what typically happens. And that's why most people don't want to do it. Why most of us don't want to have big goals. Because one, we're going to disappoint ourselves, and two, we're going to come up with loads of challenges. People are going to tell us, oh, you think you're cool, you think you're like amazing, oh, you think you can do this and do that. Well, so who would want that? But the people who break through that, what most of us don't understand is that to break through and get what you want, you have to be tested. Do you really want it? Because the people who genuinely get what they want it. They're prepared to sacrifice who they are for who they want to become. They're prepared to let go. So many of us are identifying what we do with ourselves, when in reality what we do is very different from ourselves. If you can let go of what you do from your identity, from who you are, my God, your life is going to explode into change. The third thing that I wish to share with you is that you should have written this goal down. And I mean, most people do not write their goals down. I say this to people all the time. And people, I said to you, it's one of the hardest things to teach this, because people have heard it so many times that people just think that they know it. Let me ask you this, have you written your goals down? If I came to your house, could I find a list of what's important to you, what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to go for? Because if I can't find a list that you're trying to go for, that means you're responding to everybody else. When people ask you out, when people say, Cass, do you want to come out? Cass, do you want to do this? Cass, do you want to do that? You're always saying yes. You should be saying no more than you should be saying yes. I say this to people all the time. If I came to you and I followed you for 1 month, and the majority of the time you kept saying yes to stuff, that means you don't have a life. The majority of people who succeed, who get what they want, say no more times than they say yes, because they know where they're trying to aim, and that means they only accept and say yes to things that help them get to where they want to get to. Does that make sense? But of course, firstly, you have to know what that is. Hence why I say to you, you have got to write your goals down. I say this and nobody does it. There's physically no way of getting around this. Every single person that I've studied on the subject of success who's achieved what they want, every single one of them is the same thing. Write your goals down. Same thing. I go to businesses, I go to CEOs, all of them, write your goals down. I say this to people. It's like they're not really hearing the words that I'm saying, and the reason why is because this is a subject that most people think that they know, and because they think that they know this subject, because they've heard it since they were children, it's like, oh, you've got to have goals. They run ahead of me and try to preempt what I'm going to say. So if I came to your house, I don't know, today, tomorrow, can I find a list of your goals? Can I find somewhere where it says, tomorrow I'm going to achieve this. In the next year, I'm going to go for this. In the next 3 months, in the next year, in the next 10 years, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Can I find that list in your house? Because if I can't find that list in your house, that means you are saying you're responding to the world. You're like a boat that's out in the ocean with no captain. You're just responding to the waves of life. You're being pushed left, right. You're going everywhere with no direction. You don't have an aiming point. Do you know that a plane that takes off from one city to another, 99% of the way is actually off course? Did any of you know that? Do you know what autopilot is? What autopilot is you put in one destination to the other destination, and the autopilot is supposed to be autocorrect. That's what autopilot means. It's all the time correcting the plane to get it back. So most people think that a plane goes in this kind of direction. It goes in a straight direction. It doesn't. The plane actually does this, but it eventually gets to where it wants to get to, because the captain knows where the plane should be going. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter if, for example, the captain has to reroute and go somewhere else. As long as he knows where he's going, it may take him 2 years, it may take him a couple of more hours, but as long as he knows where he's going, he will eventually keep coming back and bringing the plane back on course to where it needs to get to. Does that make sense? So those are the 4 things that I wish to share with you guys, and I hope that they can help you out today. So number 1 is, do you feel uncomfortable? Number 2 is, have you written it down? Number 3 is, you shouldn't know how to achieve it. And number 4 is, other people should challenge you. Other people should challenge you. Other people should say, you can't achieve it, you can't do it. That's when you know you have big goals. That's when you know you're really going to change your life. Remember what I said earlier on. People only change for 2 reasons. Number 1, they're forced to. They go to the doctor, they're told they've got cancer, and all of a sudden their life is irrevocably changed. They go to the doctor, they're told that they're obese, they're told that they're gonna have heart attack, or they're gonna have diabetes, then they change their lives. People change their relationship when their missus comes to them and says to them they want a divorce. People change their life when they've got into a car crash. People only change because of that first reason, and the second reason is because they're inspired. They have something that pulls them through where they are now. where when they look ahead at the thing that they're trying to aspire to, is so big, it's so audacious, it's so crazy, it's so mad, it's so never going to happen, but it's inspiring. Man, it's like, why? It's like a challenge. Do you know what I mean? It's actually quite interesting, because whenever I've studied, you know, people like Usain Bolt, and I've studied all these athletes, and I've studied people who've set up these amazing charities and companies, these people a lot of the time didn't think that they could do it, but it was a challenge. It was like, well, let's give it a go. Like, worst case scenario is it doesn't work, but let's give it a go. Now that's when your life gets exciting, because now you're growing. I said to you guys many times, there are 6 human needs, and these needs, all of us need to have them. 4 of them are essential. You will find a way to meet the first 4 needs, which is the need for certainty. So that's to feel in control, to know what's happening, to know that people are not going to kill you, to feel safe, to have food, to have a good standard of living, to be able to have somewhere at home. That's the first one. You will find a way to meet that need in whatever way, even if it means stealing, whatever. Number 2 is uncertainty, which is the need for variety. If things are going too perfectly, you're going to find a way to sabotage yourself. You're going to find a way to create just, you know, when things are going too good, when things have been the same all the time, it gets boring. So you need something to excite you. That's why we need uncertainty. So have you ever been in a situation where your relationship is going really good, and then you just feel like you need to sabotage it somehow? Like your partner is pissing you off because they're being too good. That's because you need variety. So that's where uncertainty comes in. The need for significance. All of us need to feel as if what we're doing contributes. We need to feel as though we matter to other people. We need to feel as though somehow what we're doing is impacting someone. Most of us will find a way to do that. Significance can be done through smoking, because it helps us feel and connect to other people. We can have lots of money. We can be a leader in a church. Significance can be got through having a really big house, all sorts, or being on the local charity. It can be done through all sorts. Number 4 is love and connection. Love and connect. We will find a way, to get love and connection. It doesn't matter whether we do it. A lot of people don't actually go for love, because love is too risky. So most of us settle for connection, and connection most people get through animals, because we know that animals are going to love us unconditionally. We know that animals are never going to betray us. They're never going to leave us. They're never going to backstab us. And so we just settle for connection rather than love. Love is where all of us want to go, but to love takes being vulnerable. It takes giving yourself. It takes being out there, and most people don't want to do that. And the last 2, which most of us, is where we lack. This is where most of us, those first 4 needs, all of us will find a way to meet. But the last 2 are the needs of the spirit, and these are higher than yourself. These are things that most of us, they're not musts, but we need them in order to develop, in order to become our highest, fullest expression of ourselves. And the first one is growth. You need to grow. And I never really understood this, because I always thought as you get older, you just naturally grow. But no. We're talking about growing spiritually, growing in knowledge, growing in experience. That's the kind of growth that we're talking about. We're not talking about you getting like growing in height. To grow as an individual means spiritually. It means it's intangible. You can't see it. That means you as an individual are growing in knowledge, skills, experience. The way to do that is to begin to work on yourself, personal development. Work on your attitude, work on your skills, work on your talents. That's how you grow. And the reason why you grow is so that you can do the 6th thing, which is contribute. The ultimate thing that all of us want to do is contribute. But most of us, because we don't do the first thing, which is grow, because if you don't grow, then you have nothing to give. Because contribution is about giving. It's about giving to others. Most of you know my 2 questions that I want to know the answer to, and I've spent most of my time trying to study is, number 1, how do we get what we want in life? Number 2, how do we get there without killing ourselves and becoming into a dickhead and a twat and a wanker and hating everybody and having no friends and cutting ourselves off? How do we do that? And I've got to tell you, the second reason why people who have lots of money, who are successful, who have amazing things, built lots of industries, all sorts of things, and are still happy. The reason why they are doing it is because they contribute. What they're doing contributes to other people. It may be through their company, it may be through their charity, but they can give. That is why because they've worked on themselves, they've got better, they've invested in this and that, and invested in themselves. That's why they're able to give and contribute to other people. And that's why their life is so much better. Most of us, the reason why we're unhappy, and I guarantee, I'll say this to people all the time, if you have everything in your life at the moment, you have a good relationship, you you're in a decent job that you don't really hate, but it's all right, and you have a decent standard of living, but you're still not happy, is because you're not meeting those two needs. One, you're not growing. You don't have a challenge. You don't have something which is impossible. You don't have a Goliath. You don't have something which, when you look at, you're like, I'm never going to achieve that. Because when you have something that you're never going to achieve, remember, human beings are goal-orientated. You grow. When something is a challenge, it means that you're going to have to develop. You're going to have to become a different person. You're going to have to learn different things. Do you see what I mean? It's exciting. Because then when you start growing, then you have experience, you have skills, you have knowledge, which then puts you in a position to meet the last need, which is to give to people. You must have heard it. Loads of people talk about the fact that, oh, I feel so good when I give to people. Oh, I just feel so good when I'm able to just offer and give people this and coach people in this. Because it's true. But most of us don't do it because we have nothing to give. And the reason we don't have anything to give is because we haven't worked on ourselves. Does that make sense? So the key here is to grow yourself. The way you grow yourself is to have goals. Those goals need to be based on those 4 things that I've told you. 1, they should be something that makes you feel uncomfortable. If you do not feel uncomfortable, they're not big enough. Number 2, if you know how to get your goals, they're not big enough. You should not know how you're going to do it, because now this answers one of the key things that I always share with people who I coach, which is you're going to need a team. That's why I say to people, you should not know how to do it. Most people who've achieved great things have not done it by themselves. Search it. Search any single person who you think has achieved something which is amazing. I guarantee you, on my mum's life, they have not done it alone. Don't even for one moment think that somebody who has a great relationship, who has a fantastic, their relationship is spontaneous, it's amazing. Don't for one moment think that they've done it themselves. I guarantee you they'll have a group of friends, they'll have a family members, mentors, people who have guided them and given them some advice and said, do this and improve this and get better this. They have not done it by themselves. I 100% guarantee you. The next thing is, you should have people who are fighting against you. People should be like, oh, you think you're so good, you think you're so smart, you think you're so amazing, oh, you think you can do this, you can do that. That's when you know that your goal is good. And the last one is that you need to have written it down. You should have it down on paper. You should have what you want, because otherwise you're a ship without a captain. You're out in the ocean and the waves are just sending you all over the place. And the way to figure this out is people should be saying no. You should be saying more to more things. You should be saying no to more things than you should be saying yes. If you're finding yourself saying yes to everything, it means you don't have big enough goals. You're saying yes. Your decisions on anything should be based on the things that you're trying to achieve, your big goals, how you want your life to be. I hope that has helped you guys out, and if you think that this can help somebody else, share the video with them. I'd love for them to reach their highest, fullest expression of themselves. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think that I've just chatted shit and this really doesn't help anyone? I don't know. I'd love to hear from you. And share it with people. And also subscribe to my channel Castmotive on YouTube so that I can keep sending you more of these videos. I'll speak to you guys soon. Thanks very much.